in our community that we need to address more fully, and we're going to hear from several people as to their experiences, and we want to leave here with concrete steps of how we can be more inclusive. The theme of this year's convention is towards a more perfect union and building the beloved community. In order to build a beloved community, we need to have the input, the experience, the inclusion of everyone in the community. We have a speaking panel, and we first hear from Dilshad Ali, and for those of you who don't have a speaker's bio, Dilshad Ali is the managing editor of the Muslim channel at pathos.com, a multi-faith news and blog website, which she joined in May 2011. She's also the editor-in-chief of Autism, and she has written the blog Muslim Next Door, where she posts on faith, family, and autism, not always in that order. And she will be speaking to us about the issue of autism. Thank you, Dilshad.
Like Leah said, I'm Dilshad Ali, and professionally I work at Pathos, which is a multi-faith website, but my first priority is as a mother to my 3 children. My eldest is Danish, who I refer to, if you read my blog, as Lil D, although he's not so little anymore. He's 13, and my daughter Amal, who's with me today, she's 10, and my son Hamza is almost 6. So I'm here today to provide to you a parental perspective on children with autism, on families helping to raise individuals with autism, and our place in community events, schools, and masjids. But I also feel this idea of how we as a Muslim community can be more inclusive for those with autism and special needs needs to discuss some attitudinal changes as well, needed by our leaders, our families, our spiritual and secular support for caregivers, as well as for individuals with autism, and encouragement to families with autism. We need to dig deep. We need to encourage the families as well to dig deeper into their depleting stock of energy and be more public in our communities as well. We're going to talk about this too. And at the heart of this, I'm a wife and a mother, a daughter, a sister, and this path that we were put on as a family comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And for the challenges and the triumphs and the frustrations, the anger, the joy, the heartache, the despair, the love and the light that comes from this journey, what I really feel strongly is that we must all agree on this, that individuals with autism and all special needs, that we all have worth, and that they are part of our community, they're part of our families, they're part of our lives, and they deserve their chance in life. They deserve their chance at being in dunya, and you deserve to have it done in the best way possible. So I'm thinking of what I wanted to say today. I reached out to a lot of parents in my network who have children with autism, or teens or adults in their family with autism. And I was overwhelmed by the response that I got back. You know, to put it simply, the need is great, and my voice today isn't enough. And if we start to put in some very simple, very doable practices in place for our autistic and special needs children and families, I really think the outcome can be beautiful and beneficial beyond our wildest expectations. So I want to start by telling you a little bit about autism very quickly. Autism is a complex neurobehavior disorder that includes impairments in social interaction and developmental language and communication skills and behaviors. It covers a very large spectrum of symptoms and skills and levels of impairment, and it ranges in severity from a handicap that limits an otherwise normal life to a really devastating disability that could require institutional care or in-home care for the rest of your life. But I think the most important thing that one should know about autism is this. If you have met one child or one individual with autism, well, you've met one child or one individual with autism, because autism manifests differently in every individual. So I want to read to you real quickly from something I wrote on a post about the failure of the American Muslim community to help those with special needs. The autism community is a passionate, active, fierce, supportive, and combative group with 1,000 different thoughts and approaches to the autism spectrum disorder. But we get each other for the most part, what we're all going through. And we may be a spectrum, and no two individuals may be alike, but we are a tribe. But what about the Muslim community? Where are the individuals with autism special needs in the Muslim community? Where are the Muslim families on this autism journey? Last year, the Centers for Disease Control put the statistics at 1 in 88, as in 1 in 88 children have autism spectrum disorder. And recently that number was bumped up to 1 in 50. I want you to think about it for a minute. 1 in 50 kids have autism spectrum disorder. So there has to be Muslims dealing with this, right? My family can't be the only one, and we're not. My going public about 2-3 years ago about our autism journey and my son Danish and the struggles that we are having has brought up the most incredible connections with other autism special needs families in the United States and around the world. And we need to figure out methods of inclusion to make lives better for our children and our families. So the question really is, why should this matter to our ulama, to our community leaders, and to every Muslim family out there, not just those dealing with special needs? When I'm telling you with statistics like these, you don't know someone with autism right now, you're going to know someone within 2 degrees of separation, and I guarantee that. You will know someone who is affected by autism or autism spectrum disorder or any type of special needs. Now, I want to start a little bit by telling you about my family a bit. My son Danish was diagnosed very young. He was early intervention from the age of 2, and our official diagnosis came at the age of 3. And it was, every family who goes through this will tell you that the year of diagnosis is a very devastating, very life-changing year. And everyone approaches it in a different way. For us, we did a lot of research. We started special diets, we started seeing special doctors, we had him enrolled in an autism school, we were living in New York City, and we made connections within the autism community. And we really threw ourselves into therapies and whatever interventions we could come up with. My husband and I both come from a very strong family of faith. And their approach to us was to support us in any way possible and to tell us, to fall back on our faith, to fall back and trust in Allah. And I'm going to be honest, it's very difficult. It was for us at that stage. It was very difficult to do this. And we went through a period, I can't speak for my husband, but I went through a period of, praying and fasting and none of it really meaning anything to me. It was just going through the motions because I didn't understand why this was happening. There were 2 major game changers for us that really made it important for us to really come back to the community. One was my husband and I had been performing our Hajj in 2005. And the second one was our daughter growing up and having our 3rd child. So now we have two more children in our family. And we wanted them to be involved in our local Muslim community. We wanted to attend Jummah prayers with them. We wanted them to go to Sunday school and be involved in other activities. But it was increasingly difficult to do this with our eldest son because there were never any accommodations made for him. And when I talk about autism being a spectrum, that's really what it is. You can have people who have difficulties within the spectrum but are still able to navigate areas of society. You can have people on the severe end of the spectrum. My son is on the severe end of the spectrum. He is nonverbal. He has behavior issues. He has a lot of issues that we don't even need to get into right now. But it has changed and affected our life in every way possible. And it's very difficult to take our entire family into any type of situation and manage all the needs that he has. So my decision to write about him and to lay bare our journey stemmed from 2 things. I was tired of feeling alone, like we were the only Muslim family dealing with this, and I knew that there had to be others and we needed to raise our voices together. So here's something I wrote from a post about a special needs ceremony that we attended. Anyone who tries to connect that divide between raising an autistic child and adhering to faith traditions knows what a difficult task that is. And I'm not talking about crisis of faith, about those what is God's plan or why my child or will my prayers be answered type of problems. I'm talking about the inclusion of special needs children in faith practices and in our houses of worship. Whether the child is high functioning, moderate, or severely autistic, whether he can talk or not, if he has behavioral issues or problems in a social setting, whatever the nature of his autism is, finding a way to incorporate him into religious ceremonies or specific practices of faith can be an exercise in frustration and futility, especially if one's house of worship does not have a plan of inclusion for special needs children. and most don't. And to emphasize this, I'm going to share 3 quick stories with you. One is about ourselves in Ramadan about 2 years back. He was 9 or 10 years old, and at that point we still were able to go to community iftars and tarawih prayers on occasion with him. But it was increasingly difficult, and we took him to a community iftar, and it didn't work out well. You know, they're very loud. You've been to iftars, I'm sure, and community events and tarawih prayers. The sensory overload can be overwhelming. A lot of people talking, a lot of rush to eat, then you have to line up in prayer, and it's very difficult for him to navigate that. And as it would be, he was running in front of people when they were praying, he was being loud, and I heard complaints about it. And I took him away from there and I took him home. And I realized several hours later, after breaking my fast, that I hadn't even prayed Maghrib. I had a date, but I hadn't even eaten anything. I mean, I even missed my prayers that day. And that was when I decided that it wasn't worth it. It just was not worth it. The agony of taking him and not having people understand or not having people be accommodating to what we needed. The second story I'll say is the difficulty we have of going for Jummah prayers. We have to go in shifts. We'll go to the prayers as a family sometimes because I want my entire family to attend. And I will be on the playground with my son, and my other children and my husband will be inside for prayers. Then he comes out and I pray inside alone and not in Jamaat. This is the things that we have to do if we want to take everyone to prayer. We have to go in shifts. Another story I'd like to relate is one that I heard from a Facebook friend who also was trying to get her child acclimated to going to Jummah prayers. She even took a therapist with her who wasn't Muslim but dressed appropriately for the occasion. She came in with electronic devices and other manipulatives to help the child be calm and to, be able to handle the sensory output. And she made some noises and she started to get a little agitated and she got reprimanded by people in the masjid. After all that effort, I mean, when we're putting forth this much effort to be part of the community and we don't get something in return, then it's very discouraging. And these are the situations that need to change. Because here are the places where we're feeling ostracized. In the masjid, in our community events, in Islamic schools and in Sunday schools. More often than not, I haven't heard a single story of especially children being welcomed in Islamic school. Now, this is a big country and I don't have the authority on everything, but I haven't heard. They don't understand individual education plans, IEPs, what it takes to get our children involved. And these are some of the things that we need to be changing. We need to realize how we lecture and how we approach families with special needs. We need to come up with different ideas to be able to include them and be able to make them part of our society. And there are examples out there. We don't need to rewrite the book on this. In our community alone, there are our churches in our community of Richmond offer respite services. The Jewish Community Center where I live offers special classes and special accommodations if you want to attend the events. And these are model programs that we can visit and we can learn from and we can make in our own community. There's a good friend of mine, Rasha Abdullah, who has started a special need Eid ceremony for children in the Washington, D.C. area. She's with the Muslim American Society of D.C. A very simple once-a-year event to include families with special needs and autism and all special needs to make them feel part of our community. A special Zohar prayer offered for them, a special khutbah directed towards them. These are the things that make us feel like we are worthy of being part of our community, that we are special and we are wanted and we are needed. And these are the changes that we need. And I look to ISNA even here today, and I can't blame my son because they're not special accommodations for him. These are the small things that we can address and we can change. And we need the help, we need the love and support of our community. And really there's no other question about it because the statistics are there. And the rate is growing. And if we don't do something about it, there's a lot of people who are going to be ostracized. So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dilshad. Now we will hear from Nathan. And how are we going to do this? What is that? You'll come up and speak?
Then I can't see him. So I just need the mic here.
Oh.